what to write about. Trying to figure out what it's all about. Existentialist. Am I worth anything or just a scout? I don't know.
That was Great Sounds Watts with Outside on WNHH LP 103.5 FM New Haven. Myself, Prestige, with my partner in crime, Long Island raised, Elm City made, Easy Blues is in the building. Easy Blues, you are better with introductions more than me. Who do we have with us again on Behind the Brand?
You know, I come from an era when the three-peat was something that barely ever happened. Only true greatness gave you a three-peat. Chicago Bulls with Jordan. I'm sure the Patriots did it. Three-peat was so difficult to get. And only true greatness can have a three-peat. This next person is also considered a triple threat. A philanthropist, an incredible human being, an independent business owner. Those three. I can add more threes on there. Someone who's willing to stand up when others are sitting down. Someone who's willing to have your back even when all heck is breaking loose. This person has stood with signs while angry people were charging upon him and stayed calm and stayed safe. A true hero. I want you to put your hands together, not if you're driving. If you're driving, please keep your hands at 10 and 2. We don't need any accidents, but keep your hands together for the amazing, the incredible, someone, a near dear friend to the show, an incredible
very near
being.
These days.
Very near, extremely near. We share a porch. Nate Blair. I was waiting to like sneak that one in there. You got me. I love it.
I couldn't resist.
You knew where it was going. That just means the chemistry's there.
Yeah, full disclosure, he finds me on his front porch at least 3 times a week. So
word, it's fine, and it's great conversation every single time. And also one of the things, because when Prestige was like, "We got to get Nate Blair back on," I was like, "I could." You want to ask him right now?
Well, as they say, like a good neighbor.
Yeah, like a good neighbor.
Yeah, I'm
Nate
not
Blair
Jake.
is there.
I am not Jake from State Farm, but
No.
I strive to be that attentive and that present in people's life. Yeah.
So how have you been since the last time you were on here? We were talking a lot about your pop-up thrift stuff that you're rocking and rolling with. Life is always constantly evolving and changing. And how is that business going?
So, I would say, first of all, winter and pop-ups, generally not the best time for like my outdoor secondhand clothing pop-ups. Mm-hmm. So I have been using it as an opportunity to just work on my clothing more, work on the clothes that I make. Also, I was recently diagnosed with Lyme disease. And the reason why I was diagnosed was because my knee basically swelled up to the size of a grapefruit and I couldn't walk. I have a car that's stick shift, can't drive stick shift with a swollen knee. No, and like the absolutely irresponsible guy that I am, I hadn't been to the doctor in a while. Right. And I was like, all right, I guess this is just cause to visit the doctor. So long story short, a doctor, if you have a swollen knee, can tell if you have Lyme disease based on the color of the pus that comes out of that knee. Yeah. And so a lot of people that I know have had difficulty in particular getting the Lyme disease test, difficulty in particular having their doctors diagnose Lyme disease, because I'm not exactly sure, but it's my belief that like taking the test for it is somehow like more difficult. Like you need to do like a 2 or 3 part test and they need to send it out to a lab somewhere else or some crap. But in that regard, if the symptom from Lyme disease that you are showing is a big swollen knee and they go to train it and it is like somewhere between lemonade and apple juice, then guess what? You got Lyme disease. And no, immediately.
Wow.
And so for me, it was kind of lucky that that was my symptom and that that's what was showing up. Because, yeah, I've heard horror stories from other people who have had Lyme disease just trying to get a diagnosis and like going years going to the doctor being like, I'm having these problems. And the doctor being like, well, let's try this. Let's try this. Let's look at all these things. And they find out after years that it's Lyme disease, which is from Lyme, Connecticut. So there's certainly a sense of pride in Connecticut that I get when I found out that I have a lifelong Connecticut disease, like so many of us, I think. And then also, yeah, it's interesting too that Lyme disease was, I think, first discovered in the 70s and near a military compound. All right, cool. So yeah, a little bit of Connecticut, like, you know, private contracting, military. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, so that has been like honestly a whirlwind for me for the past couple months.
Right.
But at the same time, like it's had some lows because I do my best thinking. I'm most creative when I'm walking, when I'm in movement. And so not being able to be mobile has really affected my ability to feel creative, especially, you know. And so that's like one aspect of it. But on the other, it's been this awesome, like, so I've had this for a while.
Right.
And so like, I don't actually know how long I've had Lyme disease. I could have had Lyme disease for, you know, ever. No, but like I could have had it for a very long time, at least 5 years. I know I've had it. So it's just hilarious to just in hindsight, write off all of my deficiencies from the past 5 years and just chalk it up to Lyme disease. Like every single, oh man, I didn't have the energy to do that or the strength to do that, or I was kind of mean in this moment. I'm like, oh, that was all the Lyme disease. That was 100% the Lyme disease. And so it's fun to kind of just sort of, give myself a little carte blanche for this disease that's been racking my body for the last few years, and just kind of forgiving myself for maybe things that were not in fact Lyme disease. Yeah. So that being the case, with taking medication, there are certain elements of the disease that I did not know was affecting me. And then as they're getting better, I'm just like, oh, that was the Lyme. And so I actually have more energy to right now, like in the past month. I've been on antibiotics. I actually have more energy to work on my projects. I'm like actually,
that's great to hear.
Yeah, I have clear vision. I did an interview with somebody about the work that I was working on in like November. And when I did that interview, they're like, do you have any advice, you know, for people who are trying to make things and like trying to start their own business and stuff like that? And my advice was take things at your own pace. Take like, if you only have the energy to do a little bit at a time, that's perfectly fine. Respect the energy that you have and don't try to overdo it. Just do what you can, step by step, things will get done. And like, that's because literally I couldn't put in more than like an hour without feeling like all the Lyme in all of my joints, like keeping me literally from doing the artwork that I wanted to do. And so it's just like very funny to be like, word, like, that is good advice. It's still good advice, but it was totally advice that was affected by the fact that I had this disease, you know? And I didn't even realize it. So like,
the best thing just about being a creative is just adjusting, because like you said, like you have this disease for quite some time now. You haven't heard about it, and thank God the doctor was very blunt with you, because a lot of doctors give people the runaround so many times. So do you believe, just back to my question, just adjusting is so important when it comes to becoming a creative? Because like you have to just think on your toes ASAP, because mind you, you're running a whole business by yourself.
Mm-hmm. Well, so adjusting, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You saying that actually brings me back to the coffee shop.
Oh, Lord,
Because
yeah. I remember that.
because like first of all, yes, like being able to adjust with the circumstances is like one element, but like so I don't know if people listening or anything know anything about me, but I briefly ran a coffee shop.
That's
In
right.
doing so, you are actually adjusting to who your clientele are. You know, you're like, yes, you are somebody who is like trying to, you know, manage the space in certain ways, but in other ways, you're there to serve people. And when you come to know who your clientele are, when you come to know the environment that you're in order to truly serve people, you need to be listening and you need to adjust, you know, whether or not it's like where your heart takes you, you know, like,
Gotcha.
and so in that kind of fine tuning, that's where, yeah, you come into harmony with things, you know, you're not just trying to either impose your will on something or simply just completely submit either, you know. And so like I would say I'm a lot better listening externally and listening externally to how other people are feeling than the way that I'm feeling. And so this has been, in terms of adjusting recently, just being really honest about how I'm feeling. Because the truth is that this has been an issue for a very long time, and I was refusing to look at it as an issue. You know, like meanwhile, my body was telling me all sorts of things, and I was refusing to listen to myself. And so yeah, I feel like that's a big adjustment for me, and a big part of not getting stuck or trapped is stopping, listening, and making the proper adjustments. And if those weren't the right adjustments, to change again, you know.
Do you feel that's a part of your growth?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, like I am fortunate that I can grow. I think that sometimes the moments that it takes to have real growth can sometimes break you, and so or it can be a truly traumatic experience, you know, that if it doesn't break you, it takes a lot to get back on a track where you feel like you're in harmony with the place that you're in and the growth that you're having. And that's where in the past year, I feel like I've actually really stepped into my own in terms of creating, in terms of making clothing. I actually feel handy with a sewing machine in a way I didn't a year ago. I have the focus to start and complete projects. And I'm like making steady headway in terms of the branding that I feel comfortable with. And that's also where I'm also becoming more comfortable with the idea of not being a capitalist and still being an entrepreneur. In that, like, just because I don't necessarily like want to reach a certain size, like I think that there's a level in sustainability for myself that I want to be able to work for the things that I get in return, you know. Absolutely. like I am making clothes and I sell those clothes, and then I get the money for those clothes. Or, you know, I'm looking for clothes and then I sit out there and I sell them and I make money for that. I don't actually feel comfortable in the idea of looking forward. Like, what are my end goals with the clothing that I want to make? I don't really feel comfortable with just sitting in a room talking about my clothes while someone else makes my clothes. And I get paid for the clothes that they have made.
It'll be a little you'll feel a little bad inside.
No, I feel it's morally wrong.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so like, does that mean that I'm going to advocate that that's how everyone should act? No, not at all. We live in a very harsh, cruel reality, and do what you can to get by, everybody. Like, but in terms of me, like, no, that's actually that's a part of who I am and what I care about. And so, like, if anything, I'm just excited that I have more energy than ever to actually put into making clothing. And yeah, in that sense, like, as a entrepreneur, as an anti-capitalist, and as a Black man, I think that, like, all these things can come into harmony perfectly. You know, I think that it's possible to be a creative. It's possible to make a living while making things that you'd like to make, and, like, not exploit people while doing it, not have to step on necks or break backs. And, like, I just recently I've been having serious thoughts and, like, of how to articulate what emancipation from the system, what that means and what it looks like. Because basically, like, I think that there's a level in which people, minorities, in the last, like, 5-8 years, are coming to get funding, are coming to get sort of support in ways from, especially, like, non-for-profits, in how to sort of create a business or have some money for art. And like, these things are all really good within the system, but that would be accepting that the way that the system is good. And I don't actually accept that. And so, like, there's an element to, I don't want to call it a fad, because I'd like to believe that it's actually more sincere, from liberal establishments who have money, like Yale, or, you know, various endowments and stuff that pour money into, honestly, like, important programs in the system that we have, which is the non-for-profit system.
Of course.
And, like, I am cautious to say that being dependent on grants from nonprofits, being dependent on the liberal gaze that is currently looking at Black artists, I'm cautious to say that that is the leg up, and not just like a holograph of like. So when I growing up in New Haven, when I was like 8, 9, 10, like, there was a lot of money for the arts. There was a lot of money for schools to do art projects in inner city in New Haven. The Arts and Idea Festival in New Haven in 1997 was unbelievable. There was, like, full circus, like, jugglers and stilts. Each neighborhood had a little committee to make a float with the kids of each neighborhood to march down into New Haven. It was unbelievable. Truly, like, a memory that obviously, like, still sticks with me. But what I also remember is that, truly, when Bush came into office, all that money dried up. All the money for the Boys and Girls Club dried up, or HCYS, or like all of these projects that were truly integral to the wealth of New Haven disappeared because of a couple people's choices of people who don't live in New Haven. And so I just always am cautious in these moments where there is a bunch of capitalist attention, whether it be through nonprofits or whatever, because I just think it's fish handouts rather than being taught how to fish. And like,
Nate, I hate to cut you off, but one thing I don't really think is a fish handout, and I think Easy Blues can agree because he's been a part of these functions, is the whole stuff that's going on at the State House, supporting a lot of local clothing and just going out there and having all the people just around the Elm City, just get to know a lot of local fashion designers that are with the State House and partner with them and just like show everybody the turnout. Easy, correct me if I'm wrong. I bet like early in the morning, people were just all coming just to support these designers.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, because I can actually answer this on both points. Because
also,
the story
on WNHH LP 103.5 FM New Haven, myself, Prestige, and You're So Smoke too. His name is Long Island Raised, Elm City Made, EC Blues. Continue, buddy.
It's super interesting because yes, the State House, we have been doing this thing where it's the Forgotten Flea Market, where there's a lot more of the vintage resale clothing aspect of it. On a Sunday morning, the place will be packed out. It's free. We don't, we're not the promoter that puts it together. A promoter has come and approached us about it, and obviously
Lord Mateo.
That guy.
Might as well shout him out. Yeah, he's a good
cool.
Guy.
Yeah. Good dude. Fun little event. I wind up working like 18 hours that day usually when it's there, because I'll jump in for like 9 o'clock in the morning, and then I'll do the second event after that. But the State House is the perfect example of what you were talking about, of like where corporations start to step in. The State House has really been thriving and pushing local community, local art, and really focusing on the diversity of the local art. It's not, again, what I love about you in particular is you never pour salt on anyone else's hustle. The grind that you're talking about is your personal grind, and that is what you're doing. If other people want to take that step, that's cool, but you support that person being happy upon doing what they're doing. And that's something that is huge in a world where everyone's pointing a finger at somebody. So thank you for that. But the State House really grinded out and created that extra art, and now there's a high rise going in that parking lot. The State House is going to have to be reimagined. There is things that have to move on and go through. It is we once again, and I love how you kind of called it out earlier. We are once again kind of getting into that identity crisis aspect of it. There are these organizations that are giving freely. Now, look, they're getting tax deductions. If we all think that they're doing this out of the kindness of their own hearts, we were born at night. It wasn't last night. You know what I mean? But they're at least doing it. They're at least stepping up there. And again, we're not pouring salt on anyone else's hustle. But like when Big Said University cuts, a $30 million check when they had, $4 billion worth of profit than the year before, and they're not getting taxed on it. Maybe you want to come a little harder to the table. But that's just me. I'm a jerk. You know what I mean? That's just me. I want my
in that respect. Like it's not just the blue and white elephant. It's also like, for example, right now, like I just how do I put this? I don't have the answers. But in terms of my what makes me anxious about the longevity of the focus on Black entrepreneurship. Right. The longevity of the focus on education, whether and just like opportunities for people to have diverse experiences. Right. Like right now, I think we are in a boom. That's awesome. Everyone needs to take advantage of the boom that we're in. Like if the Arts Council is handing out grants, like get yourself a grant. Like don't pause on that. Like jump right on that. But just in terms of the longevity of this boom, like if we do think ownership of your own business, of your own work, of yourself is important. How do we not simply take this moment and like roll it into something more sustainable, but just look at it in a from the ground up? How do we sustainably build? You know, how so that when the grants from that what's her name? Rosa DeLauro is on the SEC, right? Security Exchange Commission.
Yeah,
Like,
I believe
basically,
so, yeah.
basically she wrote the checks and signed the checks while in Congress. So while she did that over the past 2 years, she signed a lot of checks for her district, which is us.
Yep.
That is classic American corruption. But rather than going into that version of American corruption, it benefits us, but only in the short term, because we no longer have a Congress that is run by Democrats. She's no longer on the SEC. So you can't expect that money to be coming anytime soon. Like she signed it. We're getting that money. That's not long. That's not long money, you know? And so it's like, what do we do as a community to make sure that we are still, even when government bread isn't coming in, bankrolling all of it, that we are collectively already taken care of, you know? So that we don't see everything that's opened in the last 5-6 years be gone in 10 years.
With everything happening right now, I see a lot of unity. I always state this with just previous shows and like the different entrepreneurs, me and Easy interview. Within that next 5 to 10 years, just with a whole bunch of just local entrepreneurs just working with each other in New Haven, what positives do you see, Nate?
Oh my God,
great success right now, but
like, so in that sense, we're in a boom. I feel like there's so many fashion designers in Connecticut right now. This is one of those awesome moments where I get to blame my Lyme disease. My name memory hasn't been that good recently because of the Lyme, but like even out of like the space that I work out of, there are 2 or 3 artists. I know the name of the brand is Dirtbag with an E. I work with Brent who does Dead by 5 a.m. I mean, there's so many people. Threads by T. Man, there's the lady who's on State Street who does some good stuff. I actually haven't met her, but I've seen her stuff and it's freaking awesome. And like that's almost like a bigger compliment than meeting her, because like I've seen her stuff worn and I already have brand recognition of what she does, you know? And so in that sense, there's clothing wise, there's like a lot to be excited about in New Haven, but I just think entrepreneurially there's a lot to be excited about in New Haven. I think so, like just throwing it out there as an idea, I think it's really a shame that we don't have a market for artists in the same way that we have the farmers market. I think that we have enough creatives in New Haven to have a fully like staff, you know, like easily we could have 15-20 stands every weekend, like where the Worcester Street Farmers Market was. Like easily that could be staffed by people who make things and in New Haven and just want to sell the things that they make in New Haven. Like it's a shame that first of all that it doesn't exist. Second of all, the only way it will exist is if a non-for-profit gets incorporated and then you know goes through. Like, why can't people just show up and sell stuff? But in that respect, I think that like New Haven needs to take steps not to like create nonprofits that, you know, work privately and do X, Y, and Z, but just like do it themselves. Have someone in town in City Hall like pull this stuff together. And like, yeah, I guess there are citizens who can, also just like take the initiative to try and pass legislature and X, Y, and Z. But yeah, I'm definitely not that guy.
I don't know. You sound like the guy to me, man.
No. I don't have too much faith in electoral politics. But local electoral politics is the closest I get to having faith in electoral politics.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it's also a lot different, the fact that you can approach these people, you know what I mean? And
right.
and love them or hate them, and it doesn't matter one way or the other, but the fact that like Eliker rides the buses,
right,
you're like,
right, exactly.
Word, all right, cool. I can have a conversation with him. There's not a million people standing around him,
Yeah, I was having a taco and I saw Eliker there, and it's like, yeah, if I ever had a problem, right, I could just, talk to him right there while he's eating his taco. Yeah,
exactly. So I think that's it's easier to have faith in the system that well, at least in the people that are approachable. I cannot have faith in someone who's got rolling with 10 advisors and a couple of jacked people that are there to look scary, and I'm probably gonna laugh at them because they look adorable. They're all uniformed. It's cute. Oh, look at you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just easier, and it's very interesting because a lot of people, not just Eliker, but a lot of people in that administration themselves are extremely approachable. We've had Adrienne Jefferson on here many a times. There's several times I'll just pick up the phone because I feel like talking to her, and she's like, "Hey, what's up?" Right. That doesn't happen. We had this conversation. I was away at a conference for musicians, and we were talking about the difference between like going with more of an independent aspect through Orchard or going through DistroKid. And I looked at him and was like, yeah, if something goes wrong with your song, can you pick up the phone and call the head of DistroKid and be like, yo, there's something up with this? No, but you can definitely do that with this dude who's standing right in front of you. Like, and I know that for a fact because I've called him many a times. I think I'm hoping that's kind of where we're going back to as a society. I hope. My hope does get its butt kicked on a regular basis pretty much every single day, but I still kind of hope.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I sort of, as you said, that I was scanning through past mayors and just administrations. And yeah, I would say that there's definitely value in feeling like you can just walk right up to your mayor and talk to them for sure. And thinking to like Tony, nah. I never felt like I could just walk right up to Tony and be like, hey, a couple questions. Does Stefan know? You gotta know somebody who knows somebody with the Stefano,
Exactly.
Freaking I approached this Stefano. He'd already stopped being mayor for like 5 years or so. Like, yeah, he was leaving the owl shop, he's like, he's a consultant now, of course, he was leaving the owl shop after a meeting, and I go, and I knew this would kind of annoy him. I'm like, hey, Mr. Mayor. And he turns around with this like very angry, he's like, and then I was like, yeah, I grew up in New Haven while you were mayor. Just, it was a pleasure to meet you. And I like mentioned my father because he was on some like, I don't know, liberal environmental committee that DeStefano like, blew smoke up the butts of make it sound like he cared about the environment, for example, they were like a committee that partially formed around the idea of like getting the Farmington Canal like through New Haven so that, there was like a healthy green bike path, blah, 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 all that good stuff. Don't get me wrong. I love my dad. I love the stuff he fights for. But I mentioned my dad, and he goes, "Oh, Bruce, yeah," and he like glad hands me and stuff, like, and then like he like immediately just like beautifully politically was just like, "Oh yeah, Bruce, he was on the environmental whatever committee. Yes, good guy." And like I immediately saw like both sides of him in like 2 seconds, and I was like, this was the 90s mayor of New Haven. But yeah, I'm so thankful that era is over. I'm so thankful that the era of charisma, but like as a weapon, like seriously weaponized charisma. I'm glad that, like, honestly, to be completely candid, I doubt Justin will ever. I mean, who knows? Justin might be listening right now. But when I first met Justin, he was completely that kind of guy. The Mr. Let me weaponize my charisma to disarm you or like do whatever. And like, I don't think he's that guy anymore. I think after some years of actually being mayor and not simply just wanting to be mayor, he's come to be a real person who I may not agree with completely, but at least I feel like the words that are coming out of his mouth are truly the stance that he has. I feel like the way that he feels about things when he's advocating for things that I care about, you know what? He's not black. You know what? He's not a woman. He's not like queer. And he doesn't speak like he is. He doesn't even speak like he's the champion of these people who are downtrodden. No, he's like, this is the reality of equality and the equality we're trying to attain, and it's like, cool. I can appreciate that level and not like trying to be some white savior,
Yeah.
Does that say a lot? Because I'm sorry, I just sparked into my head, and I apologize.
Well, no, sorry about that. But no, it's very true, and also like how human, he is, and how long of a memory he does have. Last Christmas, one of my younger guys was doing the band marching thing around, a senior home, and he was there, and my son introduces himself, and for all of those who know, you can tell. When it comes to me and my kids, you can tell. It's real easy to understand that we're related. You look at my kids and like, I swear I've seen you before. You have. It's me. So then my son, introduces himself, gives the full last name, and Mayor Ellicker goes, "Why does that sound familiar?" Without missing a beat, my son goes, "My dad. My dad. He's Dustin." He goes, "Oh, tell your dad I said hi," and just kept it pushing.
Right.
But that's those moments can happen because, look, he jumped in and it was already a spit show, and then a pandemic happened, and then the whole world started to completely change. So he either had to really up the slime ball factor, or he had to be human, and there were a lot of people, yourself included, making sure and calling for him to be human, and I think he really responded well to that call.
Yeah. I surprisingly, I think he has risen to be an acceptable mayor. Yeah.
Does it say a lot because he's not from New Haven? He's from New Canaan.
I mean, how do I put this? Was Tony really from New Haven?
Oh,
True.
Like, I'm sorry, but I just like Yale runs New Haven
because we're gonna have an uncensored podcast with Nate Blair coming out very soon. So
we're gonna have that.
He can share his thoughts, he can share his feelings, he can share everything that he's been through, because he's been through a lot. There's a whole bunch of memories we have with Nate Blair. These 3 episodes right now on Behind the Brand is just a frosting on the cake with the stuff he's been through in the Elm City. So if you want to see a little raw edge side of his thoughts and feelings, stay tuned to that uncensored podcast. It's going to be on the New Haven Independent SoundCloud. But We are on WNHH LP 103.5 FM New Haven, myself, Prestige, and my partner in crime, Long Island Rays, Elm City made, EZ BlueZ is in the building. Nate, will we ever get Cafe X again?
Of course. The one aspect though of the X is the element that it is a variable.
Right,
so
right.
Like in what iteration will we see Cafe X?
Mhm.
That has yet to present itself. But
Right.
like, I'm not deterred from coffee.
Right.
I'm just more interested in other things right now.
Okay.
In particular, like that stint of running a coffee shop was super exhausting. It was
Takes a
super
lot.
difficult.
It definitely takes a
And
lot. Yeah, it does.
running it solo dolo, with the expectation that I was going to be running it with someone else
Mhm.
was really difficult.
Mhm.
But it definitely makes me aware of how I need to approach it if I'm going to go at it again with a
Yeah.
partner or alone.
Right.
One aspect of that like while running the shop, but
Mhm.
also in the time since, I've just come to appreciate just how fundamentally exploitative restaurants are, and like the food industry, like
Oh yeah.
just on a very, very fundamental level, it is predicated on, at the very least, exploiting yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
At the very least, or
Yeah.
exploiting your employees. And like, my hope was with COVID, honestly, was that it would destroy the restaurant industry, because it needs to be built from the ground up. And unfortunately, our government decided that the restaurant industry is small America, and
Right.
decided to bail it out completely. And it's not that, I think they like misunderstood the idea that like people like me are employed at restaurants, and mistook
Right.
that for people like me need restaurants.
Right.
And it's
Right.
like, no, with like the slave ship is not like that's not what we need. Like, we don't need you to bail them out so that we can stay on the ship.
Mhm.
Like like, we need this thing to get completely dismantled and reconstructed.
Right.
So that, like, first of all, so that you can buy something at a restaurant at an affordable price, and
Right.
so that
Right.
I get paid for it. Like,
Right.
like that's basically all we want, all of us involved,
Yeah.
And it's like, why isn't that the case? Well, it's because we're putting a lot of money in subsidizing different parts of the food industry that are not that part. And so it's
Right.
like, we need to just look at what we're subsidizing as a country in the food industry, and apply it to where it actually helps American citizens, not to where it helps the 1%, not to
Right.
where it helps farm owners. Not like, owning a restaurant is
Mhm.
a Ponzi scheme in and of itself.
Right.
Like I don't know of many restaurateurs
Mhm.
who stay in the business because of the money.
Right.
Right.
Like, you need to constantly be growing in order to make money in the restaurant business.
Right.
Agreed.
Which is,
agreed. Non-debatable there. Agreed. Yes.
and so it's just this, it's a very strange model. And when I say strange, it's because we act as Americans as though going out to eat is our right as human beings. And
Right.
you know what? If we're in an industrialized civilization where we are expected to work or die, then yes, there needs to be some food around for us when we're not working.
Right.
So if we're expected to work or die, then the food that we get needs to like fit within that model. And so we
Right.
act as though it does. We get takeout sandwiches, we eat out a lot in order to stay productive.
Of course.
Right.
Because the truth is, we would all be happier with like 2-hour breaks to cook ourselves lunch. We'd all be happier. But that's not what all of this is geared towards. It's all geared towards like maximum output in someone else's purse, you know?
Right.
And so in that sense, there's like a lot of, I think, fake incentives to get people to open restaurants, and not a lot, like our government has a lot of fake incentives for that, and not a lot of good ways to sustainably keep that restaurant functioning.
Right.
And like, yeah, stuff as simple as like controlling the price of gasoline so that the shipping of things is controlled. Like that would actually do a lot.
One thing that I can't control, Nate, I gotta end it right now. We're on WNHH LP 103.5 FM New Haven. Myself, Prestige, Long Island Rays, Elm City Made, EZ BlueZ is in the building. Any gems that you want to give to someone to stay motivated, stay consistent, keep at it, no matter what you're going through. Like I said, like you said, not like I said, like you said earlier in this broadcast, like you were diagnosed with Lyme disease and you still had to keep going with the business. What can you say to someone to move on? And like we always do for each guest on the show, please plug that social media. Please plug everything you got coming up. This time is yours.
All right, word. My bit of advice, I guess, would just be step by step. I know that's so frustrating to hear, because often when that advice is most valuable is when your head is most down. It's when you actually can't quite see more than one step ahead of you. And all I can say is that one step, that's probably enough. Just take that one and then see where it is from there. In terms of, social media, you can follow me at Nate Blair himself. The name of my clothing brand is Every Living Moment, which acronyms into ELM, a little tree you might have heard of before. And you can follow me at Every Living Moment on Instagram. Trey Moore, who is an artist in New Haven, is doing awesome person. I don't know if y'all have had him on your show before, but you definitely should. They are doing another so they're having like a monthly music installment thing. I would say check his social media to find out more on that. I think it's March 4th. I'll be doing some clothing vending with that.
Nate, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for being part of this broadcast. Easy, any final words?
Nah, man, I love and appreciate every time that you're on the show. I love growing in the knowledge that you share, man. You just keep pushing, and we're going to be here for the next 1.5 million installments when you join the 5 and the 7 time club and all that fun stuff. We love it. I heard the 10 time club has jackets. Talk to Preston.
Oh, who makes those jackets?
You.
Stay tuned for the jackets on WNHH LP 103.5 FM New Haven. Myself, Prestige, and my partner in crime, Long Island Rays, Elm City Made, EZ BlueZ.
Wondering what to write about, trying to figure out what it's all about. Existentialist, am I worth anything or just a scout? I don't know.